Well, obviously the scale is different in television, and the costs and so forth do make it much more of a dialogue-oriented arena than film. But looking at current things like Spooks and Hustle, that the BBC in particular are doing, it seems to be much more filmic consciousness in the talents in working on those shows, not necessarily the writers. And I think that would be the difference that I'm noticing here about that. I haven't seen that many new British films, so it's difficult to say at the moment what differences there are that are perceivable. But the difference, of course, is the sense that you're talking about at least 90 minutes in the movie. You're talking about 45 to 50 minutes on a TV episode. Whether or not that's part of a series or a part one of a two-parter, there's a kind of pattern for those in this country, which I don't think applies in America or Europe, I don't know. And to me, they're terribly long and boring, these two-parters. There's 3 hours of stuff. You know, well, at the best, it should be 90 minutes. So the downside of this is that kind of stuff. The upside is it seems that series are getting much more interesting here, much more like American television, but with their own ideas, as opposed to simply copying, you know, a gangster show from America or whatever. I haven't seen enough of Judge Deed with Martin Shaw, which are written and produced by G.F. Newman. He's a very interesting writer who goes way back to the 60s. He's a novelist. And somehow, I missed, you know, some episodes, if it were, of his life. Somehow he's turned himself into a writer-producer. He writes every episode of Judge Deed, and there's a serious moral arena in those things, which is something I admire most about American television at its best, like The Practice, and going back to Naked City and those kind of shows. There's a sense of, about a morality, about a kind of almost a Western thing, but some things are right and some things are wrong, and we are trying to help you show the difference, even though we don't know ourselves. And that's been an area missing, I think, from English drama, this idea of a kind of morality play being played out through the genres. But I think that's coming in now. And there was an interesting show called 11th Hour recently, written by Stephen Gallagher, which had Patrick Stewart, who's some kind of forensic scientist. Again, there's a sense creeping in to those shows that they weren't just plots and who's killed the guy that got killed and those kind of meaningless Agatha Christie sort of things, which I find very hard to deal with. There was issues going on, not just social issues about isn't it wrong to have this, but human things. So I think looking at it now, it's the emotion that's missing from a lot of British, both film and television, the sense that you're involved with the characters, the way you are with you know, American films and with European films. Somehow it's a sense of not wanting to get too close to people, the characters, because they might, you know, do something you didn't want them to do. And it's important that audiences relate emotionally. It's why they relate to the big American spectaculars. And Scott Fitzgerald had a great thing about the two great stories. It's Cinderella and Jack the Giant Killer. The beauty of women and the courage of men are the two basic stories. And I think that's why American films, Hollywood, has conquered the world, because effectively that's the stories they're telling. It's Jack the Giant Killer, whether that's Bruce Willis or, you know, a real fairy tale. The fairy tale quality of Hollywood is what entrances the world. And when they're done well, they're wonderful. But there's more to storytelling than that.